Behind me is the Canal goal here at Croke Park, and this has been the scene of many talking points this summer. From the Leinster football final to Benny Coulter's square ball to Kildare's last gasp effort against Down. Well, what talking points await us today? Well, I suppose the first is, where is this heading? By the mountains of Mourne or the banks of the Lee?
Sipping summer through the air blows over the green to me. Leave behind spider lines underneath the tree where I was sitting. Fingers trailing through the grass, gently kiss my thoughts as they go. My feet are weightless, carried on silver notes coming up from daffodils that dance beside the road. And this day is mine, this day is mine. Cartwheel leaves past my feet, tickling the ground as they go. Cardigan on my shoulders, taking in the colours of the bar. I've got the feeling of that first stretch in the morning, going on and on and on. Got my halo swinging on my finger for frisbee with the sun. Day is mine. Day is mine. And I want to share it, want to share it, want to share it with you.
It's the last big day of the year in the Football Championship of 2010, and the day begins with the All-Ireland minor final. It's Cork versus Tyrone, and that game begins at 1:15. And the minor match is followed by this year's All-Ireland senior decider. It is, of course, Down versus Cork in that one, and the throw-in for this year's senior final is at 3:30. Well, yes, they've been descending on Dublin this weekend from opposite sides of the country. Down football fans making the journey south for a senior final for the first time since 1994. Cork fans, of course, have made that journey from all over the county last year, but this time they'll be hoping to bring the Sam Maguire to the streets of the southern capital tomorrow night. Well, if that happens, Sam will, of course, be going home, because Sam Maguire, originally himself from Dunmanway, originally from Derry, Meath and Kerry. I'm joined here in studio by Joe Brawley, Colin O'Rourke and Pat Spillane. Gentlemen, you're very welcome on this very special day, Pat. Apart from the most ardent of Cork fans and most ardent of Down fans, it's impossible to get anybody else to really call this final.
Why call it?
Please do, because we'd like to know.
I think Cork are going to win today, and the more I studied the games over the last couple of days, the more I was convinced that Cork are going to win. Why? They've stumbled to today's final and they haven't played well. They say it's all about results rather than performances. I just genuinely believe there is a good performance left in Cork, provided they move the ball quicker, direct and less hand passing. But you know, two key things. One, the last 20 minutes against Dublin, I saw something in that Cork team which I hadn't seen before. I saw composure, leadership and belief, battling to get a result against the odds against Dublin. But secondly, what I see in this Cork team is experience. Been there, done that, have been defeated in two All-Ireland finals of the last 3 years, will hopefully have learned from it, and I think experience and a better subs bench can see Cork through. The big question, of course, Graham Canty. I mean, we were here a couple of weeks ago. It's like Groundhog Day. With Dermot Early, would he play, wouldn't he play, whatever like that. I spoke to officials from the Cork County Board this morning. I'm telling you this, Michael, it's a lot easier to find the third secret of Fatima than to try to figure out whether Graham Canty is going to play or not. No one is saying, but the bottom line is he didn't play in the trial game last Saturday. He's only trained twice, and I think it's quite unlikely that he will play.
One aspect of that, though, Colin, is I'm hearing from inside the Cork camp that he won't play. So when you hear that a person won't play, there's a good chance that he actually will play.
I think that it would be very foolish on the Cork management to risk.
Do you think they'll learn from the Henry Shefflin situation?
Yeah, but I think they'll actually learn from the Graham Canty situation. Yeah, right. They put him out against Dublin and he was ineffective and had to withdraw him at half time. You know, you can't go and play at this level of football without preparation over months and months and months. he was unfit in the Dublin game. He is now a month when he hasn't been able to train. So in actual fact, he's probably worse off now than he was at this stage.
So how would they reconfigure the defence then? Presumably Miskela will come in then. So how will it shape up?
Yeah, well, I'm sure Miskela will come in. He's a great athlete, and maybe he would suit playing on Clark, who will be doing a lot of running, or maybe they'll put Michael Shields out to play him. Miskela, though, is more suited to playing in the half-back line. And the problem Cork have is that they have a lot of good athletic backs, but they haven't very good markers, as we saw against Dublin. Like, they weren't able to cope with Bernard Brogan. They got their marking arrangements all wrong for almost all the game until Owen Cadogan came in, and then things settled down a bit.
Are you tipping Cork?
Yeah, I'd have a slight favouritism for Cork. I think they will. The Cork supporters, I'd say, will be coming here with trepidation because their record over the last 20 years has been horrendous. But at the same time, they have a lot of experience. The only team that's ever beaten them here in the last 5 or 6 years has been Kerry. So the way is open for them. They have beaten a lot of other good teams. They haven't been playing well this year, but they still should be able to produce one decent performance in a year.
Tony Davis, during the week on radio, he inadvertently worried himself and I think the entire Cork nation by mentioning the stat that Cork have played in 24 All-Ireland finals, Joe. Only won 6 of them.
Yeah, and you know, I think it must bring a pressure on these players. The one advantage from their point of view is that it's not Kerry, because I watched last week the Kerry-Cork game in last year's All-Ireland final. I mean, the body language was extraordinary. The Cork body language as the game went on, and at half-time, coming out for the second half, Kerry chasing. And you contrast that when Kerry played Tyrone, Kerry's body language against Tyrone.
Yes.
And there is definitely something in that. You know, Cork, I would think, will be much more relaxed today than they have been in the past when they had to face Kerry.
Okay.
But there is a bit of pressure too. No down team wants to be the first to lose, so
Well,
that brings its own pressure as well.
Yeah, you have to lose the first of them at some stage. Time for some other views on this year's All-Ireland football final. What does it say in the papers, indeed? What did it say in the papers about famous All-Irelands of the past? Well, let's find out. We head over to our studios in RT to join Darren Maloney and guests.
Michael, thank you very much indeed. We're going to have a look at the papers on All-Ireland Final Day in just a couple of minutes, but we're also going to have a look back at some famous days for both counties as we build up to 3:30. I'm joined here in studio by Damien Lawler, GAA correspondent with the Sunday Independent, and by GAA historian Donal McAnannon. Gentlemen, you're both very welcome. Thanks for joining us. Donal, 1960 is where we're going to start. A hugely significant day for Down, but also for the GAA in Ulster.
Yes. The impact of the Down teams of the 1960s was truly profound, not only on a sporting level but also on a social and quasi-political level. In the previous 75 years of the GAA, no team from the 6 counties north of the border had ever won an All-Ireland title. In fact, hardly any from that area had even won an Ulster title. And then suddenly this precocious young Down team comes along in 1960, beats all before them, Kerry in the final, 228 points, double scores, and everything has changed. Where previously the failure of Northern teams had seemed to embody a spirit of dejection among Northern nationalists and never going to achieve their dreams, suddenly this new Down team came to represent a newfound confidence among Northern nationalists. And they were seen as pioneers and innovators in everything they did. They wore black shorts before any other GAA team wore anything other than white. They were the first to wear tracksuits. They set up a players' body, the Down Association of Gaelic Sportsmen. They published their own magazine. They wrote a book. One of them wrote a book on coaching when that was unheard of. And they've retained this reputation of just a really innovating team and a tremendously popular team to the present day.
Yeah, Damien, jumping forward now to 1968 and Down and Kerry again.
Yeah, and 4 of the 61 team remained there, but it was essentially a new team. You had Dan McCartan, Joe Lennon and these guys still there, but their popularity, as Donal was saying, was absolutely massive, and they smashed attendance records all throughout the previous years. They attracted 90,000 people to the All-Ireland final in 61 against Offaly, 70,000 people to National League, so they had a huge cult following there. And you know, in terms of stuff like off-the-ball running, and they pioneered a different sort of a game, but everybody waited for a period of sustained dominance, but that didn't arrive, and that's probably one of the greatest disappointments of their rich history, you know.
Damien, let's focus on Cork and 1973. It was their first All-Ireland for quite a while.
Yeah, they hadn't won since 1945, but 73 was a serious game for them, a serious final. Jimmy Barry Murphy was in his pomp, 19 years of age, banged in 2 goals. And here he is, your picture show. He looked like a Premiership soccer star there with the arms up and stuff like that. But that's the kind of confidence they had back then, Dara. Dual stars were prevalent. Ray Cummins was there as well. Billy Morgan was captain in goals. And again, people reckoned that they would go on and dominate. They got a huge score that day, 317 to 213, but they didn't win again until 1989, which is a huge disappointment.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at that. Another gap period, but back-to-back All-Irelands followed, 89 and 90.
Yeah, in 89, like, a great year. They bet Dublin in the semi-final. Here we are beating Mayo again. Jimmy Kerrigan was the elder statesman of that team, Dara, quite similar to the current side, whereby a couple of older statesmen, but really young guys coming through. You know, and I suppose they had a good kind of a campaign that year, set him up nicely for the following year, 1990. And 1990 was a serious year for Cork GAA because they achieved a double. People like Teddy McCarthy won medals in both codes. But in 1990, they had 4 scorers in the final that we see here against Meath. And 2 of those scorers, Larry Tompkins and Shea Fahy, accumulated about 8 or 9 points between them. Now, those 2 guys were from Kildare. So that'll show you the impact that those 2 guys had. And once again, a common trend. We expected Cork to go on and dominate for a few years, but they didn't. They underachieved, and they'll tell you that themselves. And here we are today, waiting for the new generation.
Yeah. Donald, let's go back to Down, their most recent successes. First of all, 91, and you feel, when you reflect on this team, that they kind of came from nowhere in a way.
Absolutely did. And anybody who was at the first round game against Armagh that year would testify that both teams looked never possible that would ever achieve anything. But then down when they hit Croke Park, they just achieved that invincibility that they tend to do. And they then took over from Cork as All-Ireland finals in 1991. And indeed, today's manager, James McCartan, was the lightning forward who became to characterise the team. And it led to a sequence of Ulster dominance on the All-Ireland football title. Donegal 92, Derry 93, and again 94. And I suppose Down again were the people who broke the new ground there.
Yeah, here's 94 now, their victory over Dublin.
Yes, well, Down over those few years were inconsistent in between, but they came back again in 94 and just... They beat Cork, their only championship appearance in the semi-final, and just Dublin narrowly in the final, only for that penalty save by Neil Collins and James McCartan's goal. It would have gone the other way. But so that was Down's 5th title, and they retained their incredible record in All-Ireland finals, but haven't been back since.
Well, they're back today. Right, Donald, thanks for the moment. We're going to see the headlines from some of the Sunday papers now, and we start with the Sunday Independent. Nice piece about Pete McGrath. Down teams don't always win, but they always believe they can win. We move on to the Sunday Times, North and South on the front of their special supplement about the All-Ireland Senior Football Final, and the Sunday Tribune in their supplement, The Long and Winding Road to Glory. Now, Damien, let's have a look at the Sunday Tribune, first of all. And you're focusing in on Kieran Shannon's article about one of the men of the summer.
Yeah, the morning after Benny Coulter got his square ball, or stroke goal against Kildare, Stephen MacDonald was on the phone to him the following morning, and Benny thought that he was ringing to... Benny had just surpassed Stephen as the leading Ulster goal scorer of all time with 19 goals, but he wasn't on about that. Stephen just said, you're in an All-Ireland final, enjoy every second of the build-up. Don't get too stressed or too nervous. And just an indication of that from Kieran Shannon's article. They were in the Armagh City Hotel, 7 Down players last week, and they're getting an Ulster GAA award. And they were having their meal, and dessert came along, and the staff came over, and everybody else was getting chocolate eclairs, and they told the Down squad, we've got a special fruit salad prepared for you guys. And the Down players looked at each other and laughed, and the 7 of them ordered a chocolate eclair. Just shows how relaxed they are in the build-up.
It's all about discipline. Donald, another man of the summer, another Down man, Marty Clark. Christy O'Connor's article in the Sunday Times.
Yes, Marty Clark is a tremendous young player. He's just come back from Australia, obviously, and has sort of become the playmaker of the Down team. And but anybody who's met him could also testify, a tremendous ambassador.